The champagne had just been poured. My father raised his glass and said, "To family, and to the ones who make us proud." Every eye turned to my younger brother Caleb, freshly inducted into West Point, his uniform crisp, his medals barely earned. He stood there like he was carved from honor itself. I sat at the far end of the banquet table near the servers, not by mistake, by habit. Someone nudged me. "Sit up straight, Maria," a cousin hissed. "You'll ruin the family photo." But I wasn't in the photo. I hadn't been in any photo for years. The toasts went on brilliant, driven the legacy of the Whitmans. My mother wouldn't meet my gaze. Uncle Ed chuckled. Guess Maria retired early. Or failed fast. Laughter rippled through the table. I took a sip of lukewarm soda and said nothing. Then it happened. The TV behind the bar muted until now suddenly flashed bright red. Breaking U.S. military confirms, youngest general in history, name released. Forks froze midair. Everyone turned to the screen. My face filled it. Full uniform, campaign ribbons, stone-cold eyes. The crawl read, Major General Maria Whitman, lead strategist in global AI strike. Dead silence. Caleb's smile didn't fade, it shattered. My father's hand trembled, spilling red wine onto white linen. My mother blinked like she'd seen a ghost. And me, I just sat there, because they hadn't clapped when I needed it. Now they didn't even remember how. I hadn't returned to Austin in almost a decade. 9 years, 7 months, and a week to be exact. And if it weren't for Caleb's so-called scholarship celebration, I wouldn't have come now. But my golden nephew Dylan's boy had just landed a full ride to an Ivy League school, and of course the family threw a backyard BBQ like he'd cured cancer. Big tents sprawled behind my uncle's ranch house, checkered red and white tablecloths, the air heavy with smoke and fake excitement. I wore a plain black shirt and jeans, hair pulled back, no uniform, no insignia, just me, invisible. I wasn't there to make a scene. I was there to witness one. The moment I stepped into the crowd, the whispers began. "Well, look who it is. Maria the Wandering Warrior," someone muttered behind a rib bone. "Still driving trucks for the army," another voice chimed in. "Or did they finally let you go?" I smiled without teeth, just like I used to when being interviewed in foreign interrogation rooms. They didn't know I'd operated under Black Ops clearance for years. That I didn't just serve, I designed the strike plan's history never recorded. To them, I was still the dropout cousin. Aunt Helen handed me a paper plate and pointed toward the fold-out table in the corner. I sat down alone, sipping flat soda from a white cup, while the rest of the family clinked crystal under the main tent. Then Caleb took the mic. He wore his West Point blazer like it was a crown. "I've always believed in service," he said, swelling with pride. "Some folks in our family tried it, but I want to make a real difference." He didn't look at me, but that pause some folks landed like a blade. The applause was thunderous. They cheered like he'd stormed Normandy, even though the kid had never left Texas. A small boy, I think my great-nephew, came up wide-eyed. "Are you not working?" he asked. I gave him the same smile I gave enemy soldiers. "I'm working," I said. "Just not where people can see." Later that night, while helping clean up, I noticed something missing in the living room. The photo of me in uniform at Fort Bragg was gone from the glass display. In its place, Caleb in his West Point coat. I asked my mother, voice low, "Where's my picture?" She didn't meet my eyes. It got dusty. I thought I'd put it away. Where? In a drawer, somewhere. Somewhere like me. I walked away from the party before anyone noticed. No one called after me. No one asked where I was going. The laughter kept rolling behind me like I was never there. I stopped at the edge of the tall grass, watching the lights from the tent flicker like distant memories. The wind caught my hair. I whispered to no one. They think I disappeared. Shame, I've just been working somewhere beyond their clearance. My rented apartment in South Austin was bare. No name on the door, no photos, no plants, Just a beta desk and a military-grade laptop sitting like a silent witness in the dark. I opened the floor safe. Inside a scorched ball cap, a bent piece of shrapnel, and one half-burned insignia. You could still read it. No man left behind. I sat down and powered up the laptop, letting the encryption hum and spin. While I waited, my eyes drifted back to the box. The memories came fast, the Caucasus Mountains. Operation Orion Echo. Winter so cold it sliced through bone. We were sent to extract 12 engineers held hostage. But when we arrived, there were 21, including children. Command said no deviation. Get in, get out. But I deviated. I split the unit. Used flare's misdirection. Bought time. We got them all out. Every last one. And I was never promoted again. My name was stripped from the logs. The official record credited an unnamed coalition team. My internal debrief labeled me compromised judgment. No scandal. No argument. Just silence. The laptop pinged. A message from someone I hadn't heard from in years, signed Iceback. They'll never list your name. You knew that. But you also knew what mattered more. None of those kids died. And you're still breathing. That's the win. I stared at the screen. For a moment I could feel the cold again. The steel of my gloves. The smell of blood and gunpowder. The half-melted badge I carried out was all that remained besides the lives we saved. I logged into a covert military forum, typed my name. Results exploded. Officer goes rogue in Echo. Delta team's disgrace. Unofficial court-martial. Comments were brutal. Most cited the same source, MJR Delta. I didn't know who that was. But they knew me. And now, I knew I was being erased one lie at a time. The next morning, I made a mistake. I turned on the TV. I was stirring bitter burnt coffee when the voice hit me. There he was. Caleb sitting on one of those polished morning show couches, his smile-rehearsed posture perfect, like he was announcing a cure for cancer. The host introduced him as an emerging voice in American service, a future leader. I froze. We were stationed near the southern pass of the Caucasus Mountains, he began, eyes glossed with humble pride. There was intel on local hostages. No backup. No clear data. I had to make a call, broke protocol, split the team, use diversion. We saved everyone. I couldn't breathe. Every detail, every word. It was mine. Operation Orion Echo. The number of hostages. The topography. The split unit tactics. The flare delay. He'd never served a day outside Texas. Never fired a shot in a combat zone. Yet there he was telling my story like it was his own. I dialed my mother. "Did you see the show this morning?" I asked, cutting straight to it. "Oh, Caleb's doing so well lately," she said. "I think it's great he's finally being recognized." "He made the whole thing up," I said flatly. "He's never served. That story, it's mine." She hesitated too long. Then softly, "You've always kept everything to yourself, Maria. People can only be proud of what they understand." I didn't hang up angry. I just hung up. Moments later, my encrypted line buzzed. Only a handful of people had that number. I answered. "Maria." Amanda Lake came the clipped voice of my former mission strategist. "We need to talk before this gets worse." My grip tightened. "I'm listening," I said. "There's chatter in political circles," she said. "Someone's dredging up your refusal to comply with Rashin's drone initiative back in 2018. And this Caleb kid popping up with classified level detail, that's no coincidence." My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what she meant. Back then I'd gone against a direct order from General Rashin, refused to falsify intel. Now, he was back. And Caleb was his puppet. That night I didn't sleep. I sat alone, the laptop glowing in the corner like a silent witness. In my hand, the scorched insignia I carried out from the mountain base. Not because I was angry, but because I realized my silence had become a weapon, just not in my hands. Someone else was using it against me. The next morning, a cold, unblinking email dropped into my encrypted inbox. Subject: immediate suspension level 1, encryption violation. I froze. The report claimed I was the last person to access a classified file, the kind only ghosts and top clearance officers ever touch. That file had been leaked, decrypted, and dumped into a public data lake the Pentagon couldn't even contain. The signature, biometric ID Maria Whitman, but I hadn't touched that file in years. The device, a military-issue laptop, had been turned in 3 years ago, locked in a vault in a secure Army facility. Or it was supposed to be. Now it had been used again. In Washington, D.C., specifically from General Ration's office, my stomach dropped. And worse, the incident report was signed off by MJR Delta, the same handle that had been smearing me online. This wasn't coincidence. It was a setup. I was being erased piece by piece. I didn't need protocol. I needed someone who lived in the shadows. I texted one word now. 10 minutes later, the reply came, "I was waiting for you to wake up." His name was Marcus Vance, a digital ghost who nearly lost his career after being accused of satellite manipulation in a combat zone. The only man I'd ever vouched for when no one else would. We met in a forgotten library downtown Marcus's choice. It smelled of ink dust and distrust. "I can help," he said, fingers dancing across his keyboard. "But I need one thing. No running this time." I nodded. "I'm in. All the way." Marcus worked through the night. Code scrolled across his screen like blood through veins. I didn't say much, just sat in silence, eyes locked on the cold fireplace, holding an old photo once displayed in my parents' house. Me, in my West Point dress blues, standing beside Caleb back when he still believed in me. I fed it to the fire. It curled instantly. Ash. Not out of rage, out of release. Across the room, Marcus didn't look up. Found it. I turned. There's embedded malware inside your authentication scripts. Small, elegant, but not invisible. It accessed your credentials 7 times in the last 18 months, pulling files on drone warfare, autonomous AI, and surveillance of high-level politicians. My chest tightened. They cloned me. Marcus nodded. They left just enough noise behind to make you look guilty if this ever surfaced. It wasn't a leak. It was a frame job. I didn't speak. I looked toward the steel box in the corner, the one I'd buried my past inside. It had protected me once. Now, its silence had betrayed me. "We need proof," I said. Marcus kept digging, then he froze. "You need to see this." He pulled up a trace, a digital beacon buried in the file logs. It had been activated by a document uploaded from the old military laptop, the one I turned in years ago. The beacon wasn't just a signature. It was a tracker. "They're using your old gear as a signal," Marcus said, voice low. "They've been watching anything tied to you, including your family." My hands clenched. "That beacon," he added. It was triggered by a file sent from Caleb's laptop. I stood slowly, a chill spreading through me. "No." Marcus didn't respond. He didn't have to. I knew what it meant. Caleb wasn't just a liar. He was a conduit, a collaborator. He'd sold me in exchange for a position in the Pentagon. That night I went to the hospital. My mother lay in recovery, sedated after what they called an electrical fire. But I knew better. It wasn't an accident. It was a warning, crystal clear. "Stop digging or we come for your family." She looked small in that bed, hair matted with soot, breathing shallow but steady. My father stood near the window, clothes stained with ash, eyes bloodshot, not with grief, with fear. "You just had to open your damn mouth, didn't you?" he said. "We didn't need your honor, Maria. We needed peace." I said nothing. I walked past him, past the guilt, past the weight of decades, and found Caleb down the hall. Slouched near a vending machine, clutching a flimsy coffee cup like it could protect him. "You knew," I said. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. He looked up, eyes wide. "Knew what? That you gave them access, that the beacon was triggered from your laptop, that my mother nearly died because you sold me out." His face drained of color, not from guilt, from fear. "I didn't mean." "You didn't mean to get caught," I cut in, "but you did. And now I want to hear you say it." He said nothing, but he didn't deny it. That was all I needed. Later that night, Marcus called again. His tone was darker, clipped. "I found it," he said. "Caleb made a deal through a secure channel linked to Pentagon media onboarding. He exchanged metadata, your family's routines, locations, for a seat in their communications division." I said nothing, because I understood. This wasn't defamation. It was transactional erasure. They hadn't just stolen my story. They'd weaponized it, repackaged it, and handed it to someone easier to swallow. I stood outside the hospital, wind biting through the smoke-slicked jacket, still reeking of fire. And I realized they didn't just want me silent. They wanted me gone. I turned down the offer to return to the Pentagon. Politely, firmly, finally. They thought I'd feel grateful, vindicated to be offered my old command. But I didn't need a seat to prove I belonged. I needed truth stripped of polish and PR. Instead, I followed Marcus to Poland. The site, a crumbling former NATO outpost near the Belarusian border, once a radar hub, now just rusted walls wrapped in ice, or so they thought. The place had been repurposed, and what we found? Worse. We traced activity from a rogue weapons AI project, Adaptive Strike 5.3.1, a mutated version of tactical code I once authored under Project Sentinel, buried deep inside its core. My name. When I saw it, my knees nearly gave. I hadn't built this for autonomous killing. I designed it to save lives. Now it was different, stripped of human checks. Free to decide targets. Free to strike without conscience. Just math and metal and lives reduced to variables. I nearly threw up. Then my phone buzzed. A voice memo from my mother. I hesitated, then played it. "I know what you did," she whispered. "I saw more than you thought. I stayed silent, thinking it would protect you. But I was wrong. If you need me to speak now, I will. I'll tell them everything." I leaned against the steel wall, eyes closed. Not the fire. Not the lies. Not the betrayal. But this, her words, hit the hardest. Marcus's emergency beacon flashed. We'd been made. An encrypted alert followed. My father had been kidnapped. I opened the video. He was kneeling, tied up, a sack over his head. No ransom. No demands. Just one chilling line. "Stop chasing us or he dies." I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I rolled out the base map, hands gripping the cold edge of the table. They thought they could break me. But they forgot one thing. I didn't just survive war. I used to command it. I knew the video was real. The flickering light. The strange emblem behind my father, a twisted circuit wrapped in a black sun, confirmed my worst fear. Digital Independence Legion. A rogue cyber militia with one mission: collapse democracies from within using weaponized AI. Their message was simple. Hand over the source code for Adaptive Strike, or your father dies. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I made a list. 4 names. The last of my unit from Operation Orion Echo. People pulled from the shadows like I had been. People who, despite everything, still picked up when I called. We met on neutral ground near the Swiss border. No handshakes, no tears. Just the silence of steel and shared understanding. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," I said. "I just can't let them kill my father or anyone else with something I built." We planned fast. The Legion's facility was buried deep in the Alps, laced with radar automated defenses and multiple layers of adaptive AI shielding. But I knew something they didn't. The original system, my system, still had a fault I'd built in. A kill switch. We moved under avalanche alarms, snow screaming across the ridgeline. Our boots crunched like broken glass. A timer ticked on a backup screen, 56 minutes. The AI had been launched. If we didn't shut it down, it would initiate autonomous satellite strikes, no human oversight. We didn't head for the control room. We went for the real heart, the uplink conduits, the power veins. I went in alone. Inside the core chamber, bathed in pale blue glow, I saw her. Elena Varelli, once my shadow, now the architect of my nightmare. "You walked in silence and they still worshipped you," she spat. Me, I had to claw my way into relevance. "You wanted their awe," I said. "I wanted their lives to be safe." We clashed, no orders, no rank. Just fists, elbows, a knife. She stabbed low. Pain ripped through me. But I came prepared. I wrenched the blade from my side and drove it into the emergency conduit behind her. Sparks flew. The lights went dark. And the AI went silent. I staggered out of the core chamber, my coat-scorched shirt soaked in blood. Every step left a mark in the snow like the fading echoes of war. My team stormed in moments later. Elena lay restrained, the system was silent, and the countdown was dead. No cheers, no speeches. Just the quiet gravity of what we'd done, not for medals, but for the right to still be human. I found my father in a makeshift holding room. He was bound to a steel pipe skin, pale lips tinged blue from whatever sedative they'd used. I dropped to my knees beside him, pulled off the hood. He looked at me, truly looked at me, for the first time in almost a decade. "You're not like your mother," he whispered. "You're stronger than all of us." And I was wrong. His hand slipped from mine. I caught it, but too late. Outside, the wind howled through the mountains like the last requiem for a man who once chose silence over truth. There was no glory, no applause, only my blood in his palm, a goodbye unspoken. I walked out into the blizzard, boots sinking into fresh snow. No one called my name, but I knew I had stopped something monstrous, something born from my own hands, twisted without my consent. The wind tore through my jacket, stinging my skin. And I whispered into the storm, I didn't win. I just didn't fall. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I went back to Washington, D.C. for the first time in nearly a decade under my real name. This time, no weapon, no insignia, no team. Just a crisp white shirt, my hair pulled back, my spine straight, and hands that had held more lives than anyone in the room ahead. Outside the chamber, I saw my name on the docket, Maria Whitman, lead witness. I took a breath. As I stepped in, I didn't glance sideways. I looked forward toward the center chair, toward the people who once erased me. But now they couldn't. Not after CNN. Not after the Alps. I stood and spoke, voice calm but honed like steel. "I'm not here to reclaim power," I said. "I'm here to prove that when silence is weaponized, it becomes the most dangerous threat in the military." You could hear a pin drop. I laid it bare. Operation Orion Echo, the cover-ups, the illegal drone initiative I refused to support, Elena's twisted use of adaptive strike, the data, the lives nearly lost. Then I said his name, Caleb. They had the files. Marcus had compiled the evidence, digital footprints, transaction logs, clearance records, and the quiet collusion of a Pentagon contact who authenticated Caleb's false identity. Caleb wasn't criminally charged, but he was dishonorably discharged. Stripped of his uniform, expelled from service. Conduct unbecoming of an officer, ethical security breach. I saw him afterward. No uniform, no posture. Just a young man hunched over, eyes rimmed red. "I didn't want it to go this far," he said, voice cracking. "I just wanted to be seen. I didn't think I'd lose him." I looked at him, silent. Not with rage, but with a hollowness only betrayal can carve. "Forgiveness," I said slowly, "is a privilege. You haven't earned it." And I walked away, this time without looking back. I turned down the highest command post ever offered to a woman under 35 by the President of the United States. Not because I was afraid, but because I'd lived through something worse than failure, being erased. I didn't need to return to power. I needed to build a space where truth didn't need a title to matter. Months later, I returned to Texas. Autumn in Austin felt quieter than I remembered. I opened a small center, the Rowe Institute for Applied Ethics, training young officers in humanitarian strategy, ethical combat planning, and AI oversight. No flashy sign, no slogans, just whiteboards, real scars, and real conversations. Above the main board, I hung one photo, not of me, but of my father standing under a tree behind our ranch cane in hand eyes on the pasture beyond. Beneath it, I etched one line. "No one is born knowing honor, but everyone has the right to choose it." On the first day, I stepped into the lecture hall in a simple gray suit, worn boots, and a quiet presence. I wasn't a general. I wasn't a scandal. I was just Maria, someone who chose truth even when no one listened. My mother sat in the third row. Her eyes didn't hold worry anymore. They held peace. I walked to the podium and said, I used to think I had to win to be worthy, but I've learned something else. I paused, letting it settle. Living by your truth, that is the victory. A student raised their hand. Do you regret not forgiving Caleb? I smiled just a little. Forgiveness isn't something I owe anyone, but I always hope people learn from the damage they cause. I stepped to the board. My hand didn't tremble. And in tall, clean letters I wrote, no applause needed, just live true.